Right. So some people jumped in the Capitol building this week. I heard something about that. Is what's going on up there?
Up there. Well, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think they had a rally, a Trump rally, and
Yeah.
then those people at the Trump rally are pretty fired up, and they already kind of knew what they wanted to do, and then Trump gave them permission and even egged them on to an insurrection where they attacked the Capitol building.
Yeah.
Several people died. This is bad news.
Yeah. So
A lot of people hurt.
several. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's bad news. Um,
Definitely not good.
Several people.
What do you?
I think about 100 people arrested, and the FBI is going after some of the folks that had gone home already, that are identified in the videos and cameras and everything else. So,
Right.
some of them like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anybody who my opinion on that piece is anybody who broke the law, including criminal trespass, if they can identify them, they should go get them, even if they're back in, South Texas. Go get them.
You were. What are you picking on South Texas? I think they were like from Iowa and North Carolina.
Well, I'm just talking about a red state as far away as I can think as possible.
Oh,
and
okay.
South Texas is about as far away as you can. Go down to McAllen, right?
All right.
Or Brownsburg or whatever. Yeah. Anybody who
prosecuted for sure. I mean, anybody that does something like that should definitely be prosecuted. I've been to the Capitol building before, and then I went there before 9/11, and there was nowhere near the security there is now. I would assume, because after 9/11, they even rebuilt part of the Capitol building to provide those escape tunnels that our representatives went down.
Right.
But there's some really disturbing stuff about the people that entered the building. When you see, some of them, it looks like they were there for a frat party. Some of them weren't there for a frat party. Some of them were there really serious. I mean, I think the one that really puts the point on that one is the guy walking around with those zip tie handcuffs that, like our ICE people use and that kind of thing. Who was he expecting to handcuff? Not his fellow intruders. He was looking for senators and representatives, probably, or some of their staff or whatever. He was looking for somebody beyond a cop that he could handcuff. And, kudos for those cops to, I'm going to say, delay them enough that they were able to get through their escape routes and be able to board things up or block things off or whatever, so these people couldn't get any further. There were some people there that were obviously there for nefarious means. There might have been some people there who were just whipped up because of the rally, but they were whipped up by many rallies to even get to that rally, right? So
I can't. Yeah. So first of all, I can't imagine that something like that could not have been. That had to be organized. So I think what you had was a situation where you had, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Trump rally people, right? Just normal folks, whatever. But you had a smaller group, maybe talking about 800 or 1,000, 1,500, maybe tops 2,000, who got together and they concocted a plan and said, hey, this is going to be going on this day, and here's what we're going to do. I think they had I'm convinced they had to have had a plan. Because
and surrounded the place. But yes, there was probably only a couple of thousand that went inside the building. But you're not even allowed to go on the steps. And it's funny that they show videos of the cops even from behind, where the cops are stopping them at the steps. And what that really was a delay tactic to delay them while the other people inside the building are moving, right?
Right.
And they delayed enough to keep them to the base of the steps, delayed them at the middle of the steps, delayed them up at the top, and they even closed the doors on them. And they had to break windows. All of that stuff was all a delay tactic while other people were seeking shelter inside the building, which I think I have to commend them on. What I'm really, really upset about is this thing, we all knew, because we all followed Twitter, why weren't there other people out there to defend and help those police, those capital city police?
Yeah, that's
And
a good question.
what I've heard lately, and what I'm hearing on some of the news, is that Trump made those changes with the military, right, recently, as far and he even 3 days before the rally, he made the people in those situations where he had just appointed as temporary or what's the word? Anyway, the temporary people that had picked up those positions had made some changes in what the rules of engagement were for the National Guard, when they could be engaged, what weaponry they would use, how they would support the Capitol Police. All those things were changed like 3 days before this insurgency. So,
Oh, so you
I,
think? Oh, so all right. I
I
haven't
hate
heard
to
it.
I hate to think that Trump is that smart that he actually set this up so it would work the way it did, because I don't give him a lot of credit that way. I don't think he is that smart, but I think his people around him had set that up almost so it could happen.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, that's yeah. So Trump, maybe a part of it, his cabinet or whoever else.
Right?
Think Pence could be implicated in this, that he was complicit in setting up a situation where the Capitol could be stormed.
I don't think so. I don't think
Okay.
Pence would be part of it. It's not that I'm a big Pence fan or something like that, but
Sure.
I do admire Pence. That I think he has a
Mm-hmm.
lot of integrity, and I think he's a real straight shooter. I don't agree with very much
Sure. Right.
values or whatever he's got, but
Right.
he wouldn't be involved in that. He
Okay.
he would do what the right thing was, and I
Okay.
firmly believe that. So, you know what? He
Yeah.
went one of those rabbit holes or tunnels or whatever they built over there. He went down one too, because he was sitting right
Yeah.
up. He was
Yeah.
he was the president of the Senate that day, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
One of those barbarians sat in his seat,
that's right. Well, a
which
couple of
was
them. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing is, you know, I think we can both agree that these were, yeah, I just call them barbarians. That'd be the best way to describe it. And they were dressed like, some of them were dressed like that.
Yeah.
To think that this is the way, given what our country's history, this is the way that you affect change. This is not how you affect change.
No.
And to see people sitting in Pence's seat, in the Senate chamber, and to see people in Pelosi's office doing, it was despicable.
It
And
was.
I would, yeah, I think that's something that I would at least, kind of as an opening salvo, say that we are unified on.
Yeah.
That this is not how you do things.
I'm actually surprised they weren't shot at the front door. I mean, I mean, whether it was rubber bullets or real bullets. In fact,
Yeah.
when I was watching it in live TV, I was looking at the edges of the Capitol building, looking for the snipers, because even when I was there in the 90s, there were snipers on the buildings, and you could see them. Right? There were
Yep.
people patrolling, whether the people patrolling were snipers or whether they were lookouts or whatever they were. There were people on the top of the edges of those buildings walking around them, which I felt comfortable with, because they should be there for our government like that, right? They should be protecting our legislation, right?
Yep.
I didn't see any of that. And the other thing that really it kind of got me, I think that a couple of thousand people that went into the building, I think there's a few hundred that probably really kind of had a plan, and they brought extra toys to try to carry out some kind of plan they may have had, right?
Right.
But there was probably, I'm going to say 70-80% of them, they got in there, they looked like they needed a tour guide. They stayed with the ropes of the pathway that's you're supposed to go as a tour, and they're looking all around like, "Ooh, this is the first time I've been here." They looked like they needed a tour guide, and even the one lady, when they ushered her down the step, when the cop actually held her hand to make sure she went down the stairs safely, because there's no handrails, just these huge stairs, right? It's just kind of surreal. And so out of that 100, let's use round number, 100,000 people, 2,000 plus maybe went in there. I'm going to say there was a couple of hundred real violators that were in there, and I hope they all get arrested and be charged. There was some people probably got caught up in the moment. Geez, those guys got it. I'm going up the stairs too. You know?
Yeah,
Woo!
yeah. No,
You know?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's difficult, right? You know, what if you're one of those people that defending the Capitol there, and in my opinion, that's something that should have been foreseen, or at least there should have been a contingency plan. Right. Doesn't seem like there's much of a there should have been more of a show of force there.
Absolutely. Well, you got Pence there. He's got Secret Service agents that were with him every day, just like the president.
Right.
Why did it go? And it went on for quite a while before any backup came in. I mean, right. I just don't know why it went that long. Even, I mean, I can't. You know, the last time we had somebody breach the Capitol building, they were shot on sight.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering is, yeah, I you know, so do you think there's a conspiracy afoot here?
I don't know. Somebody stood down for some reason. I'm not going to say it's a big conspiracy and everybody figured it out, because, you know, in my line of work where you're a project manager, it's hard to get 20 people to pull in the same direction, let alone, you know, hundreds or thousands or different departments and all that kind of stuff. Somebody dropped the ball, and you've already had a couple of resignations, and right. I can't imagine, especially with the inflammatory tweets that Trump had, I can't imagine that they didn't think people would show up. You know, it's going to be wild, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering. They should have taken some sort of precaution, but there would have had to been either incompetence or negligence.
Yes.
Or some sort of conspiracy theory, mm-hmm. say, hey, let's just leave this thin, and let's let these people show the American people what it's like when their wills are defied, quote unquote.
Right. I think there's probably a little. I think there's more incompetence and negligence than the conspiracy theory. I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy. It's usually something where somebody just dropped the ball. They didn't really know what was going on, and after all the changes they had over on the military side, with all these acting people, because everybody else had already bailed and jumped off the ship, or Trump fired them, so they had a bunch of acting people in there. They made some changes a couple of days beforehand that maybe they weren't aware of what the repercussions of those changes were, so they made a mistake. I don't think it was probably, you know. Can you imagine if the guy with the handcuffs that was actually in the House of Representatives chamber, what if he would have got in there while the House of Representatives were still there and picked up, you know, a half a dozen of them, representatives from different states, and tossed them in little zip tie loops with their hands behind their backs and started leading them around? Can you imagine? I mean, that's what he came for.
Yeah.
He prepared for that.
Yeah.
So at the rally, why did he have those loops with him at the rally? Why did they have the guns? I mean, they had guns. They ended up with pipe bombs and everything else going on. Why were all those things allowed at the rally? When I was in D.C. before, I mean, I wouldn't have thought about having a gun with me. Can you imagine? I mean, you can't put any of the guns or anything.
Well, and I think you'd be surprised we could get away with, but at the same time, I wonder. So if we're going to go on the incompetency or just lack of preparedness for something like this, I wonder why it seems to me like, I'll give you a little bit of my opinion on here. They just didn't think that anything like that would go on. Mm-hmm. I wonder why they thought that. That's what I think. I think they thought, okay, you know, they're going to have these Trump supporters out there. That's going to go on, and we don't really have to worry about it too much beyond that. I wonder why they thought that nothing like this would ever happen.
Right. Well, they knew they didn't have the Taliban out there, but they didn't know they had Taliban Joe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe they just thought that, but we're at a different time now. People don't have the respect for things and other people that we had 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you know?
Sure.
I mean, when I went to the Capitol and went to the White House, I would have never thought about actually even touching anything. We were kind of shuffled through within the velvet ropes, and they get, a little tour guide, tell us what's going on. I thought it was so unique because I actually got to go in the Senate chamber and sat down in one of the senators' seats, which was because they weren't in session at the time, obviously, right? But it was completely empty. But it was so cool to be able to walk in there and actually sit down. It was like, wow, this is cool.
Right. Yeah.
No,
100%. Well, and that's pretty. Yeah, I've had some of those experiences myself, and maybe I'll share some of those. But it's pretty. Just on a more positive note, it's pretty cool. We can go sit in our halls of power and tour our halls of power and that sort of thing. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So let me just start chasing this down. Let's say Trump had won the thing like Biden did. And this was, whatever you want to, it's hard to classify. I agree. Black Lives Matter, Antifa. I wonder if there would have been a greater show of force or more security there for that type of situation.
So I'm just going to tell you I'm positively so, because we've seen it in the past. I mean, when you see the pictures of the Lincoln Memorial with all the steps filled with National Guard with full riot gear when BLM showed up last time, I mean, it's very obvious that it's a double standard to me. I mean, there was nobody there. Those handful of cops in front at the steel fence going, no, don't come in. Then they finally said, okay, you can come in, because they'd already bought enough time, right? I think they played it right. The cops did.
Okay, but but what I'm wondering is, so what you implied there in that last statement was that, if it was a BLM, Antifa, flip the coin.
Antifa anyway. Antifa's
anyway, let's not get into that.
We'll
but let's talk about those type of situations. Why is it that there was there's more of a show of force in those situations as opposed to a Trump rally situation?
Well, I saw a number. I don't know if it's true or not, right? But they said that 7% of the BLM protests finally end up in a riot, because protests, people get worked up, whatever. It ends up being a riot. They destroy property. People get hurt, whatever. But only 7%. And they were joking about whether it was a joke or not. But they said out of that one rally, the 10% ended up being, part of the insurgents. So it makes those people worse than what. But I in my life and what I've experienced, I know there's a double standard. I know you and I are going to talk about this one day, and we're going to really get down to brass tacks about about what's going on in this country as far as race. But I know there's a double standard, absolutely.
Well, okay. So what I hear you saying is that essentially where the standard lies is, and so in other words, if there's a Black Lives Matter movement, if the tables were turned and it was Trump that won, 82 million votes and Biden that won 75 million votes, and it was Black Lives Matter, Antifa, whoever, you would see a show of force because simply predicated on the fact that on racial issues, not on anything else. Is that? I mean, am I hearing you?
I think
on that.
Okay. Yeah, I think when it comes to BLM, I think for sure we've shown that across the country in different cities, right?
So
When they're
maybe
going to have
explain
a
that a
BLM
little.
protest, we show of force in every city that the BLM goes to, right? Whether it's Portland or whether it's, in Minnesota or wherever they go, and they have a protest. They definitely, the police come out, sometimes the National Guard, whatever. They're definitely show a resistance, right? Immediately. Where this did not. It was just like normal day. It was just like, normal day. We got our normal visitors today. Although they had Congress in session in both houses and had the
Yeah,
vice president there, and they
very
treated it
very
like a normal day.
it's very
So
very unique situation.
when the Al Qaeda showed up, and they didn't have the people to handle them.
Okay, well let me I'm gonna bracket that piece off and set it aside for a second. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that the situation would have been completely different had it been the tables been turned. There would have been a great show of force. There wouldn't have been anything like this. Wouldn't have been a problem. All right. So in other words, it was really a racial issue. So when Trump or Republican supporters show up to protest something, the reason we don't have the security we would have otherwise is because of racism. Right?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Now let's go on to the next piece, which is what. So you've got certainly President Trump. I could implicate him in. We could implicate him in some version of incitement, right, or insurrection.
Yep.
We should be able to certainly implicate somebody like Senator Cruz for the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. What's his name? I don't. Yeah. The guy that's Hawley.
Yeah.
We should be able to implicate him as well. Right. Yep. What should be done with Trump, Cruz, Hawley?
Well, they have different positions. Obviously, Trump, we should go ahead and impeach, and I think we should make sure that it'd be really nice if we were impeach him before the inauguration. We get it through the Senate by then. And that way, to me, I hope that every fifth grader wants to know why Mike Pence was only president for a day. And then we can tell the story. We can tell a story about the insurrection and so forth. If we end up impeaching him after with the final through the Senate, after the inauguration, he still loses all his benefits and his opportunity to come back and run in 2024. As far as Cruz and Hawley and about, 90 of the Congress, I think they should be booted. Minimum. I think they should be booted. I think they should be out of their seats. They should go home, and their governors can supply senators or congressmen to replace them. Appoint them.
Okay. All right. What about the people that support them?
Meaning who? What do you mean?
Their voters, their supporters, their donors. I mean,
they can support all they want. I'm okay with them supporting them, but you can't have a person in power that supports an insurrection of our government. You can't have a person as part of the power system that supports that insurrection. You can have differences of opinion, but you can't support the insurrection and be part of it. And both those guys in the Senate and several in the Congress were, as far as I'm concerned, accomplices.
Okay, so if you're but if you're a willing participant, I mean, don't you agree that if those people incited an insurrection, right? We're going to take that for granted that Cruz, Hawley, Trump, et al. Incited an insurrection. And let's just add to that, for the sake of argument, they meant to do that. They meant to incite a resurrection. How can it stop there? I don't see why it can't stop there. You've got to go deeper than that. You've got to, if you really want to root this out, you've got to root out the people that support Trump, that support Cruz,
Not
Hawley,
supporting-
whoever.
It's about the people that were out there. Those 100,000. I'm using round numbers. I don't know if there was 100,000 or not. There was 100,000 people out there. 100,000 people didn't go in the Capitol building and commit those crimes.
I know, but my argument would be they were there to support the intentional overthrow of our government. They were there to support a coup.
But you know what they did? They stood down.
They stood down. But Jeff, they didn't stand down because they voted for these people. They gave them money. These people
can't do with voting now. You know what? When they got to that point and they said, you know what? We support Trump. We support Cruz. We support all those guys. But you know what? We're not going to go break the law. I'm going to stand over here. Those guys can go hang off the sides of the building and, you know, walk out with the podiums and all the other stuff. All those guys need to be criminally prosecuted. The people that stood out there and went, maybe they cheered them on even. I don't know. You know, but I can't prosecute them. I can't prosecute for them for their beliefs. You know, that's all. The people that take action are the ones that need to be prosecuted.
Yeah, but people are taking action by voting for these people, by giving them money.
Okay.
Why shouldn't they be held accountable?
So where do you draw the line?
I'm not even talking. What's that?
Well, where do you draw the line then? I mean, you can't go back and say who voted for Trump because he's a horrible person. So everybody that voted for Trump needs to be punished. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You know.
Well, my thing is why doesn't it make sense? Because according to President-elect Biden, we should have seen this coming, and anybody who, I mean, and again, I'm not even talking about maybe not even just the average voter, the average donor to this campaign or that. I'm talking about these super PACs. I'm talking about corporations, NRA, whoever else. These people should be. I mean, they were accomplices. So I mean, if you're sitting in the, you know, if you're the driver of a getaway car for a bank robbery, you're an accessory to the crime.
That's right. But you're taking action too, right? But I see what you're going with. I see what you're trying to say is that, well, geez, everybody's an accomplice now. So since everybody's an accomplice, you can't prosecute everybody. But I have to ask you, where do you draw the line? Do you want to prosecute everybody? Do you think everybody's an accomplice?
So that's my question is where do you draw that line? So again, I'm granting the premise that Trump, Cruz, Hawley, etc. Planned an insurrection and meant for this insurrection to happen. Right. That was their motives, and that we can demonstrate that conclusively,
right?
In a court of law, and therefore anybody that would support that or donate to that or vote for that.
It's not about supporting that or donating to it. Well, it is, but it isn't. Let me think about it for a second. Now you kind of got me off guard here. So if they're co-conspirators and they're actually had the conspiracy together, those three plus congressmen, you know, et al., like you said, yes, they should be tried as conspirators. Okay, and the people that actually followed through with the action and did it. But then, you know what? You're making me think about it. If I have a gun for hire, I don't actually murder somebody, but I hired somebody to murder somebody.
Yep.
But that's me. It's a criminal intent going after somebody. Do you think that the people that donated money to Trump and Cruz, etc., do you think they had a criminal intent in mind whenever they were donating that money?
Well, it's hard to say because say for instance,
I'm just trying to work mind, you know?
Right. So say for instance, I was the head of a big super PAC, that supported Senator Cruz, and all this time, you know, and he, well, not all this time, but at some point he was complicit in an insurrectionist coup of our government.
Mhm.
I think you would have a hard time dodging liability in that.
If you are the head of a super PAC supporting Cruz, and he was in, and you were part of that conspiracy, you were aware of it, and you donated or you provided funds for that conspiracy, I believe, and you're aware of it, because you have to be aware of your crime too, right? You know right from wrong, especially if you're the head of a super PAC. You're then I think you could be complicit. But if
Right,
you're
but
Joe Blow voter and you just vote for Cruz, I don't think you. No, I don't think so, because you're not a
well,
conspiracy. You don't know what they're.
okay, so but no, that's but what what President-elect Biden said uh, was that you should have seen it coming. And so if you didn't, I mean, it's like you being the driver of a getaway car.
I think
Hey,
all of
hey,
us saw it coming, right? All of us saw it coming. We didn't
uh,
know what
okay,
level it
okay,
was. Right?
let's hold that piece for a second.
Okay.
Um, well, no, wait a minute. Let me just grant that as a premise. We all saw it coming. We
Mm-hmm.
all knew that these government officials that we supported and
Mm-hmm.
voted for, whatever,
Yeah.
try not to implicate myself in this, but people saw it coming.
Sure.
They knew that if their power was threatened, that it would result. They saw this coming,
Yep.
so they have no excuse.
And it kept
So
getting
so
deeper and deeper and deeper down a rabbit hole too. So they really saw it coming. They knew it was going to come to a head on the 6th. And even after all the tweets and the invitations and the Trump team website and all the other stuff that invited everybody to come there for that event, right? So everybody saw it coming.
okay, right. So really, that's the thing where I don't think you can deny culpability to supporters below whatever the higher up powers. You've got to do. So here's what I think, given the past week's circumstances, should result in
Mm-hmm.
is that and I think we're set up for this because we've got Facebook and Twitter who have banned Trump for
Mm-hmm.
life. Basically, that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Um,
Melania wins.
well, maybe.
Yeah.
Trump's going to jump on Melania's Twitter account.
No. She
Uh,
has the whole Be Better campaign without the cyberbullying thing. So she finally wins.
yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, we're very well set up for this with the social media companies regulating these things, regulating this kind of abhorrent behavior, misinformation, and that sort of thing. Uh, and what I think would be a great move for Biden to make when he gets in with a Democrat Senate, Democrat House, uh, is it is to issue uh, decrees or what, I don't know what you call it, something that would say that if you speak against A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever it is, if you speak against this, then you will be banned from these platforms. And if you essentially, if you speak against,
First of all, these aren't government platforms. These
they're
platforms
not.
do what they want to do. They can
Yeah.
ban anybody they want. It's terms of service. If you go in there and make a new account and you don't check off the terms of service, you don't get an account. That's all there is to it, right? So they're private. So Biden's not going to do anything with any of these services that
Well,
you're talking.
no,
They're
but I
private.
think that given what we've seen in the past week, it's very, very dangerous and unsafe to the country to allow people to to speak in that way, no matter what. That kind of speech should be quelled. You shouldn't be allowed to speak against the government.
Why? That's our First Amendment right to speak against the government. They're not quelling the First Amendment right whenever they knock these guys off. We're moving into the next section here, obviously. So about him being banned, but they the First Amendment is about what you can say to the government, and the government can't stop you from saying things. But still, if I walk into a theater, I can't yell fire. Why can't I? Because I can incite panic. If I'm Donald Trump,
well, no, but that's my point, Jeff. Is that what Biden and the new administration and the new Congress should do is move the level of what we call incitement way back, because
maybe,
yeah,
but
way back.
Government regulated. I think that Facebook or Twitter or whoever does it, they can move their level back. It doesn't have to be regulated, because
might not have that's true. It might not have to be regulated, but at the same time, I don't see why our government can't follow suit and just say, okay, incitement used to be up here, where if Trump got on Twitter and said, hey, all you people at the rally today, we want you to storm the Capitol. If Trump had tweeted that out, that would be incitement by the old rules.
Yep.
You got to move that way back, right?
Right.
We got to drop that way down, because as you said, you believe that that Trump, Cruz, Hawley, the rest of them incited on purpose, by design, incited that attack on the Capitol. Okay, so if we're going to avoid that in the future, we've got to move incitement way. Our threshold for incitement is way too high. Got to move it way down. So and I would say that if we're going to avoid anything like this in the future, then
so rather than getting all this stuff about where the level is and all that kind of thing, was it the right thing to do to take Trump off Twitter? What do you think?
Well, if you're going to lower the
I'm just saying.
Okay, so
he didn't like you on Twitter anyway.
Okay,
right?
all right. Let me put it this way: the standard for incitement of violence that would negate. So, in other words, yelling fire in the movie theater, or blatantly telling somebody to go out and do violence.
Right.
Okay, that's not protected by the First Amendment.
Right.
What Twitter did was lower that standard down to here, and said Trump was inciting violence based on a couple of tweets that he sent
Not just
out.
a couple of tweets, by his actions, other news sources, tweets.
No, that's not what they said. No, that's not what they cited. They said there's two tweets that they cited specifically, and I can't remember one, but the other one was that he wasn't going to attend the inauguration. Right. They said that was an incitement of violence. Yep. Cool. That's so he's right. So for Trump to say, I'm not going to attend the inauguration, that's incitement. That's where the standard is. It's not up here where Trump says.
But it's not just that. It's putting it all together as one package. Right?
No, that's not what they said.
Said I wasn't.
Nope, that's not what they. That is not what they. Jeff, that is not what they said. They said these two tweets.
I get you, but I'm just saying, if he said 6 months ago he wasn't going to the inauguration.
No, that's not what they said. Jeff, that's not what they cited.
That's not what they said.
They cited they cited two specific tweets. One of them was that he would not attend Biden's inauguration. They called that incitement.
Yep.
Okay. Now,
that's part of it.
That's what I think. That's what I think our government should do. Let's lower that bar to say.
So let me ask a question then. Let me go the other way. What if the people from Twitter just don't like Trump and they just said he's gone? Is that okay? Yeah. Is that okay? Do they have to have a reason?
No, it's not. No, it's not, because
why isn't
it? Nope. Because again, you're painting. No, you're painting. You're trying to paint me this libertarian that just says, "Oh, free market, blah blah blah." Okay, and we've talked about this in the past. Okay, what's the last resort? What's the last resort to corporate malfeasance? Regulation.
Right.
And I'm okay.
But we don't want to be.
That's the last resort.
As a, as a social media company, they don't want to be regulated, right?
No,
so
they don't.
They have to look at it. What should I do? What should I do in this situation? What's the best thing for the public? It's not what's the best thing for the pump.
Oh, they're not. Oh, okay.
It's not the best thing that for human rights. It's not the best thing for his rights or anything like that. It's like, what should I do? What's the best thing for us as a corporation to do? Because there are a lot of corporations. Some corporations have policies that are different than other corporations. I'm not going to go into policies now. We're talking about the specific item, but realistically, if they just don't like Trump, they can throw him off Twitter. Doesn't matter. Same with Facebook. If somebody doesn't like somebody, they throw them off. It doesn't matter. If I don't like you, I don't hire you at my company. It doesn't matter. That's just the way it is. But when you start talking about all this regulation and stuff, you're going to be back to wedding cakes and gays and all that kind of stuff. You know, if Trump has the right to be on Twitter, then gays get to have wedding cakes made by people and all. Come on, man. You don't have to go there. They made a decision that they thought was
that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Let's say I open a business that's very prosperous, and I decided I don't want to serve African Americans anymore.
That's fine.
That's a violation of federal law.
You can not serve anybody you want to.
That's not true, Jeff.
By federal law not to make a wedding cake too, right?
That hasn't been established. However,
but why?
Okay.
Why?
Okay. So the point being,
I'm going to tell you right now, if you decide not to serve somebody at your business, if I walk in someplace or I walk in someplace and I realize that I just don't like the guy running this place, it's my option to walk out. I can't force a business to do business with me. That's all there is to it. Okay.
Now you're sounding like a libertarian. Now you're sounding like a
libertarian in me.
Now you're sounding like a right-leaning libertarian.
Okay, now you're hurting my feelings when you start right-leaning libertarian. But anyway.
Right-leaning because what you're talking about is freedom. What you're proposing here, what you are arguing for, is freedom of the individual, without government coercion. All right. So if Twitter can just, hey, we're banning Trump because we don't like him. Facebook, we're banning Trump because we disagree with his politics. Yep. Fine. All right. I wish they would just come out and say that, honestly, because that's what they're doing. That's why we're banning him. Okay.
Well,
in America,
a couple other ones. We got Milo and we got Richard Spencer and we got about half a dozen other ones. You know, they're quite prominent on the conservative side that have been banned for life. So he just lumped into that group.
I wouldn't say Richard Spencer's a conservative. Richard Spencer's not a conservative.
All
right. Come on. She's here. She got me the hat. Yeah, baby. I got the hat. Thank you. Say hi to everybody. You got to say hi because we're going to be on YouTube later.
That's cool. I don't have TikTok anymore, so you can't even have it. So.
Oh, too bad.
Got rid of social media after people stormed the Capitol.
Amelia had a little frustrating episode on social media. Are you leaving?
About 30 minutes.
Come give me a kiss and a hug before you leave.
I will. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I posted frustration that day, but anyway.
Yeah. So right. So, I have one thing that is grated against me with the and this is my libertarian streak coming out is with the 60 Civil Rights Act is that those put the Civil Rights Act put specific strictures on private business to say that you cannot discriminate. You can't have a white section. You can't have a black section. If I opened a restaurant and I had a white section and a black section, not only would it be very, very unpopular, I would be in violation of federal law.
Yep.
Okay.
I get you.
So over the course of maybe the last year, even my mind started to change on that a bit to say that, okay, if a corporate entity is violating our Constitution en masse, then that cannot be allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So Twitter cannot ban Trump just because they don't like him or like his ideas. That's a violation of the Constitution. Same thing with Facebook.
But if he violates their terms of service, what do you think about that?
Well, their terms of service cannot violate our Constitution.
But no shoes, no shirt, no service. That means I can walk into a 7-Eleven with no shoes and no shirt and get served.
Right, but no, but that's not the same thing.
But it's my right to go in there. Come on
No,
now.
no. You're comparing
I'm trying
apples
to
to oranges.
simplify it, but
Because what you're talking about is the right to free expression, right? And so that's the thing is that's why you're leaning libertarian right on this issue. You want to give libertarian right freedoms to corporations like Twitter and Facebook.
Well, and my own personal business, if I have somebody show up here that I don't want to do business with, then I just tell them to go home.
Okay, that is a right-leaning libertarian. It
doesn't have anything to do with whether they're white, black, purple, whatever. If I decide not to do business with them, that's my choice, right?
Yeah. No, so that's I think that's one of the big debates we've got to kind of home in on.
Reasons not to do business. Okay. Now I may not do business with that particular. So some of my clients are very slow pay people. I did work in August. I didn't get paid for till December. Stuff like that. Right. So maybe I don't want to do business with that guy anymore. Right. Because he pays his bills late. So I just won't accept work from him anymore. It's not because he's white, black, green, whatever. It's just like, I'm not going to do business. I don't have to give him a reason. I don't have to do anything else. I just tell him, sorry, I'm not available. That's it.
Right. All right. Okay. So let's zoom out here again.
Why I'm not doing business. It may be that, or if I'm a bad person, I might have some other idea of why I don't do business with him. Right. The guy's too short. I don't do business with short people. Right.
Right.
Okay.
So let's zoom out again.
Mm-hmm.
My concern with all of this is that so you've implicated Trump, Cruz, and Hawley in purposefully trying to incite an insurrection, a coup, against the United States government constitution. State your case.
So Cruz and Hawley got together with how many senators? 10 or 12, or they kept signing on and signing off. I don't know. There's a bunch of them, but they were the main instigators, I think, out of the Senate. And there's 100 congressmen that had the same thing. Every single one of them knew that Biden won. Every one of them knew that they didn't have a case. Every one of them had reviewed the 60 cases plus that had gone to court. Every one of them.
Okay, let me stop you right there.
Grandstand.
No, let me stop you right there. Every one of them knew that Biden won.
Yeah.
State your case. How do you know every one of them knew that Biden won? How do you know that Senator Cruz didn't think, okay, there's a very small chance that we could reverse this election?
The most disappointing is Cruz.
Okay, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about show me your evidence that Senator Cruz was like, okay, I know Biden won, but I'm just trying to, not only am I trying to cause trouble, but I'm trying to incite a resurrection that results in a coup of the United States government. State your case.
The first part is that there is no evidence, and that's there is no evidence.
No. But
come on, there is no evidence.
No. You have tons of circumstantial evidence. I could easily side with Cruz's side on this. I could go to a court of law and say, how is it that this guy got 75 million votes, lost, and yet we gained House seats, and the Senate was hotly contested, which was not predicted at all. There's voter irregularities all over the place.
Sure.
And now you have got to. But you have got to bring forth evidence. Okay, you want to talk about evidence. All right, Senator Cruz that's all he had was circumstantial evidence.
He had
a voter irregularity. So you're going to prosecute Senator Cruz in a court of law for purposefully inciting an insurrection.
He knew.
State your case. state your case. No,
He
you
knew
can't.
he had no evidence of voter
No,
fraud.
you can't
Here's the
prove
thing.
it. Prove that Senator Cruz knew that he had no evidence. Prove that.
Because he stated already had multiple court cases and Sydney.
No,
whatever her
no,
name-
no, 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 no. He had enough evidence to stand on, circumstantial as it may be, as sliver as it may be. What you've got to prove is that Cruz, Hawley, et al. Got together and said, we are going to put together a coup to take over this country.
Okay.
All right.
Would them achieving their goal equate a coup?
No, absolutely not. Because if they achieve their goal, putting forth the evidence to all that were involved resulted in an overturn of the election, then that is not a coup.
So I'm going to tell you my experience with the court system, okay? It's not about what is right. It's not about what's wrong. It's all about what you can prove or not prove. And I agree with you, okay?
Right.
So he can stay at an arm's length from wherever he's at, and he can say, "Oh, I had this threat."
Jeff,
of
you are now speculating. You are speculating on what you are speculating on what Senator Cruz's motives were.
Okay.
In all of this,
You
know what I think? You know what I think Senator Cruz's motives were on this, and I think they were misguided.
Okay.
Okay, I will grant you that they were misguided. This was a political move by Cruz to show that he still has the spine, the stomach, and the balls to stand up against everybody else when all odds are against him. That is Senator Cruz's MO. The man stood up on the Senate floor and all but cussed out the majority leader. That is his MO. This is what he does. But for you to accuse him of purposefully trying to concoct an insurrection that would result in a coup of our government, you're standing on very shaky ground there. Just about as shaky as, somebody saying, "Oh, well, the entire United States election is rigged." And on top of that, you would have to have a mastermind, namely Trump, which I would guess you would say, yeah, he's not a mastermind.
Right.
None of this was. So that's what I'm saying. You got to state your case. What I think happened was there were, let's just say 1,000. There were 1,000 people in that crowd who got together. They planned to storm that Capitol building and be jackasses and do stupid shit and endanger our democracy. That's what I think happened. I don't, that is their decision to make. Again, for you to say this was the game plan,
be prosecuted. We both agree.
They should be prosecuted.
Okay.
So my point is,
Summer should be prosecuted.
No, Trump. That's the thing is that, so first of all, circling back to the reason why you see a show of force when Black Lives Matter shows up. You know why you see a show of force when Black Lives Matter shows up? Because I can't come home from my daughter's graduation party without getting egged and having frozen water bottles thrown at my pickup just for crossing the bridge to get back to my home because people are pissed off about George Floyd.
Bad day to drive.
Because here, all right, let's go right here. Right. I got some stuff for you.
All right.
Here we go.
We're gonna get me here. I knew you were gonna have a couple of videos for me and stuff.
I do. I have at least one here. All right, so we got the screen sharing on here. We got to at least get to this. Oops.
You got a few of them. Yeah.
Oh, I got a few videos, but yeah. All right, so let's check this out. So here we go.
I want to reference something we just saw but didn't point out. Right before our aerial shot.